Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I would like to talk about the 5 reasons why candidates can be rejected for the Global Talent Independent Program. So the first reason, and most damaging reason, is that you do not have a nominator. All right, so it's really normal, and it can be really normal for individuals if you are overseas, because you do not know anyone who has a national reputation in your given industry. So you're just being honest on answering the form. You told the global talent officer that you do not have a nominator. Of course, your expression of interest will be rejected because this is a critical requirement. You must have someone to nominate you. All right. Okay. The second one, damaging factors for that your global talent it's not being you are not invited, or that your expression of interest being rejected, it's that you actually do not meet a salary requirement. All right. Okay. Now, and then you provide no reason whatsoever that how you can meet this salary requirement. So this is just fact. Again, you are being honest with yourself. You say, hey, I'm not earning enough of, currently it's 156,000, right? It's a high income earner. So you basically say, hey, I am not earning that much. I'm earning 120,000 or 100,000, equivalent to Australian dollar. Then you say, you're just being honest. That's nothing wrong with that. But you have provided no further confirmation or information. Why do you think you're able to meet this requirement, right? So I'm not saying here, again, I'm not saying here that if you don't meet this requirement, I mean, if you're not earning that amount, you'll be rejected. I'm not saying that. I'm saying your salary is not meeting the high income earning requirement, but you provide no further information to explain how you can meet this requirement. It's really tricky. Right? Third one, it's that your information or your details are poorly presented. Now, this is really common to lots of candidates who approach me after they are being rejected. It's really hard for me to help them if they provide information to, if they provide information to the department. And really, I would say sometimes really poorly presented. Really, you cannot provide complete information to the department, right? You can't provide two types of information that's actually not, conflicting. Now, third one, I say poorly presented. I can give you an example of that. Right, so some people, they just read the online random information. They do not have access to the legal requirement or policy. And they ask around and they just try to understand that, right? So they just decided, hey, you know what? I think that it's the information that I should write. All right, I should write that. And they wrote it, okay, they believe, you know what? I'm skilled in my industry. That's no problem. Highly educated, I can do that. And in fact, the presentation is poorly informed. It's really simple, easy, and to explain in a way if you go to interview, right? And the interview, the job ads actually require you. It's posted by the manager, and they say, hey, I need a team member working for us for this project. He has to be very great in terms of working together with others and autonomy, right? Now, and you're going to approach that ad. You say, you know what? I'm a manager for this global company, and I've been managing well. I would like to manage people. And then you approach, when you go to this interview, you approach the manager, say, you know what? I can manage people. And the manager will say, excuse me, I am not looking for manager here. Have you checked my ad? Of course, they won't ask you the question like that. It'd be embarrassing, insulting to people's intelligence. So they won't say that. What they will supposed to say, yeah, thank you very much. We'll contact you back, and you'll never heard from them ever again. And that is really happening when you go to the interview. You haven't checked the job ads. You do not understand and haven't gone to thorough analysis about the company, about this position, about what they want you, they want you to do. And you go there and say, I am so great, I've done this project, I've done that project. You never express the view why you can be contribution to the company, right? You always think about company. What is their requirement? How you can meet the requirement? You adjust to your answers accordingly. You never present the way that you talk about your whole life, right? You never talk about the way that, I've done that project, but that company doesn't require that skill. You need to understand, and whatever presented in the job ad, you have to analyze in a way you fully understand what's their most demanding skill in that requirement. Not of them, when they understand the global, talent visa application, they believe the way is fully aware their qualification, no problem with that, but they present in a way that is not what the law wants. Right? So talk about the whole life has nobody interested in. So that is really key and a big error in doing your own application. Well, we believe that people, you know everything about the law, right? I'm sure you know your industry, but you don't know everything about law because you haven't spent enough time to understand the law and you haven't spent enough time to negotiate with the department. Really, you can't be expert in anything. You can be expert in your own industry, of course. Now, fourth arrows I'll say presentation, right? Presentation. Fourth one, we have candidate approach us and they provide information and documentation that's not critical to support their application. And they thought it would be okay, right? I provide that, yeah. The talent office, they're going to find out. How on earth are they going to find out? Excuse me. They're not going to find out. You need to present in a way that is sufficient enough to support your case. And in fact, you're not going to provide something that is going to be conflicting in your case, right? If you provide something that's irrelevant, wrong, you have no way to call it back. You have no way to say, hey, please excuse me, can you disregard the document I just submitted to you? They will consider this, the totality of evidence you presented. You can't recall your document. You can't say, hey, excuse me, that document is wrong. Can I recall? Can I delete it? You can't. As long as you submit it in a storage, in a department database, you cannot recall. So that is the fourth damaging problem, is that you provide documents and it's damaging to your own application. That's really critical. So this is the reason why if someone can approach me and if they told me, oh no, I have been rejected, I'm really I'm really aware of that situation. Most time I reject that as well. Because if you've been rejected, I am not sure what actually you have been sent to the talent officer. At this stage, it takes great amount of time for me to request the talent officer to release that information to me. So I don't want to go that length to do that. So if you've been rejected, there is no way and hardly I will take on that case. I'm not saying, you can't try. In fact, EOI, yes, you can try, but how do you think they're going to accept you for the second time? Are you going to adjust the one reason that they were wrong in the first place? That it is harder than prove you are right, right? It's harder to prove they're wrong than you prove yourself are right. Now, if you provide incorrect information, documents that are being rejected, then I cannot help you with that. But if you haven't, some people actually provide that all as information and never heard anything about the department, right? And they just believe I did everything, right? That is the problem with you, what you just said. You said that you provide everything, and it's too much, right? I've got some candidate approach me, wait for a month, right? If you wait for a month, that's something wrong with the application. We might have waited for, a considerable amount of time, of course, but most time our application is really fast. Now, we know who to contact, of course, we know because we have been dealing with it on a daily basis, right? But you submit documents and then some candidate ask me, say, hey, what would you do differently as to me? Because I provide everything. And I really want to tell you that. That is the reason why you never heard anything back from department. Because you provide everything what you believe is important, and that it's in conflicting of the application. And I cannot rescue you if you already provide that. right? It is even worse, even worse, you haven't provided, right? Because if you haven't provided, I can talk to town officer, say, hey, wait a minute, give him a few more time, let me craft something for you, right? Let me craft a better presentation for you. But if you already submit a craft of 20, 100 pages of everything, length of whole history, and some of that is not relevant at all, and I can't recall that, right? So if you come back, ask me, say, hey, why would you do it differently? I've already provide everything. Can you just call the town office to tell him I provide everything? I can't do that. Can I? It will be, it will be assaulting to my own intelligence. I'm not doing something that's really terrible, that damaging my reputation with the department. I don't do that. When I call, I want the result. I will get result. When they receive my call, receive my email, that it's concrete, right? It's precise. I don't just randomly disturb department by, hey, check this kind for me, check why on earth I'm doing this. Right? That's not professional, right? The fifth reason being rejected, mainly it's they haven't thought about that information, and they read some ill information, and that fact they could have done something better. So this is really critical for example, where people thinking about this way, right? They think about, I am expert in my area, I've done that years of programming, whatever. They think everybody understands what they do, right? They just use this simple language, just say, I do this, and throw out that language they're using, right? Programming language. I don't know you use that language. How on earth I know you're expert in that language, right? Programming language. How do I know? You can list out hundreds of languages you just read an article and then claim that you know that language. This is awful, right? This is awful. If I see that, if I'm a current officer, if I see someone knows about so many languages, clearly you're not meeting the requirement. Clearly you're not meeting the requirement. That's absolutely quickly rejection. This is because that is actually opposite to what we required. We do not want you to be everything, everything, right? I don't want you that. I want you to be specialized something or one thing, right? You are beyond others. And you just decided, you know what, I'm going to list out all my language, everything, and throw this to the department, and hopefully they know that's wrong and mistake. Now, so this is the way because the assumption of people should understand what you're doing. That's no way. Town officer, think about that. We have 7 sectors and people doing different type of jobs. And they want, like me, right? Because I go a length to go beyond that requirement to understand what you're doing, to understand everyday life, to understand your impact to the society, to understand how your personal, professional growth up to today. The case officer, a part of the work, they are promotion and marketing. They're not going to do that. They are not going to study. All right. So if you provide information that they feel very confused, what they will do is just nothing. If you confuse them, what they will do? What do you think? They're going to grant you, of course. If they do that, they're going to make mistakes. They're probably going to refuse you or probably not doing anything. But if they're doing and not anything, you know something wrong with that. So 5-1, it's assumption. It is really about your assumption, believing that they should know you and that you write a language in a way that confuse everybody. So that is, in conclusion, that's 5 main errors when people make wrong judgment in submitting the expression of interest. I hope after listening to this video, you can make an intellectual decision how to obtain your permanent visa, Australian permanent visa. At the end of the day, it's a permanent visa. It's not easy to get. It is not just simply write something and spend 20 minutes on that and throw something to the department. Hopefully, they're going to pick up you. Maybe yes, there is chance of that statistically. But if this is your life chance, you want to take it and you want a result. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe my channel or leave a comment. And if you have any inquiries, please send an email to me directly. My email address is underneath here. Thank you. Bye.